Okay, guys, it is 11:30 on Wednesday, the 5th of May. Wales goes to the polls tomorrow morning as the 2021 Senedd election reaches its crescendo as the people go to vote. As 16 and 17-year-olds go to vote for the first time ever in the history of Welsh politics. It's a really exciting time. There's the potential for some major change taking place. I've been looking at sort of the last polls that are coming in right at the very end of the sort of the final day of campaigning, and I thought I'd just give a final reflection on where things stand as we go into the actual day of voting. If you are familiar with this channel, you'll know that I spend most of my time on film, at least, messing around with Pokemon cards. So I thought, whilst we do a final reflection just before voting day finally kicks in, I thought, why not let the cards decide? There are 8 energy types in Pokemon trading card game. Used to be 9, but it got reduced. Currently we have grass, fire, water, lightning, psychic, fighting, darkness, and metal. And I figured we've got a set of battle style cards here. We have got 8 packs, and I figured we'd let the energy types determine the fate of the Senedd Elections. You know, I've given a serious reflection as to how I think things are going to play out. This is going to be a slightly less serious reflection. Fairly easy for us to attribute parties to energy. Grass, green, so we'll make that Plaid. Fire, red, Labour. Water, blue, Conservatives. Lightning, yellow, Lib Dems. Then it gets a bit tricky. I figure psychic can be Greens, because the Green Party is looking to the future. Psychic, future, kind of makes sense. Fighting energy, I figured that was a good one to attribute to the Abolish Party, because, you know, they're spoiling for a fight, politically speaking. Seemed a good one to go with. That leaves darkness and metal energy. Should I just like lump UKIP and Reform together under darkness? I'm not trying to be incendiary there. And metal energy can be independence. A good night for the independents could happen. So let's open these up. I've had this battle style box for a little while now. I've been looking for an excuse to open it, and I figure late night Wednesday, just before the election kicks in, seems as good a time as any. If you're collecting the cards, there you go. You can have these. I don't, so you know, feel free to make use of them. Let me just bring up this is from the Electoral Maps UK Twitter feed, who have been sort of collating results. They've got their call in, and it's water energy to start off with, so that's one for the Tories, and that sort of seems appropriate because the Tories seem to have had a really strong final day. Election Maps UK put the Tories up by 6 points from this time last year, where they'd be comfortably the second place party in this forthcoming Senedd. Obviously, that's nowhere near enough to displace Labour, but it would put huge pressure on them, and it would really suggest that the Tories are on course for making some really big gains. And you know, where we are at this exact moment in time is, you know, social media is awash with, I mean, looking at it now on Twitter, war with France, the French did this, the French did that. You know, it's crazy what's happening in Jersey. You know, rather than, you know, sensibly de-escalating things, Boris Johnson is going for all-out threat and potential warfare. Last card. Oh, Necrozma V. That's all right. We'll take Necrozma V. I've actually cut my finger outside on the farm, so I'm in a little bit of pain there, so I apologise for that. But yeah, what was that? That was the Necrozma V card is nice. And you know, I mean, that's cool. We'll take that. And I tell you what, you know, it's really important that, you know, whatever your affiliation is in this particular election, it's going to be really important to vote. you know, we always say this, we always sort of bang on about the importance of voting, but you know, it is of, you know, huge symbolic importance if nothing else. Another code card for you if you want it. You know, the breakthrough that we made in terms of expanding the oh, it's water energy again. So that's two Tory energies that have come out in a row. It's sort of indicating possibly where tomorrow night's going to go. Who knew that the cards might be so so accurate with their predictions? We'll see what happens. Apologies, I'm sort of zooming in and out a little bit here. But yeah, I think the symbolism of votes at 16 and 17 is really important. I've always been a fan of expanding democracy to as many people as possible. You know, there are lots of things that we expect 16, 17-year-olds to be able to do. I think having the responsibility to contribute to the democratic process makes sense. Reverse Cubone to go with the reverse Marowak, and there's regular Marowak. Bit blurry, but nonetheless. But 2 packs in, and it's 2 energies for the Tories so far, which would match up with this election now call, which puts the Tories on like 17 points behind Labour's 27. Card. There you go. And what do we start with this energy? Darkness. Darkness. So what did we say that was? That was energy cards for UKIP and Reform. So maybe UKIP and Reform doing well on the regional list there. They're not going to be taking any individual seats. That's not going to happen. But you never know. I think the regional list is really interesting this year. I don't think UKIP have a chance. Reform, you know, Reform have kind of got some presence there. But you know, I think there's predicting what's going to happen on that list is really difficult. Election Maps UK have abolished on 2 points with the likelihood of picking up 2 seats on that list. Liberal Democrats, they're predicting they're going to take their 1 seat or hold their 1 seat, which again I think is a big call. Sandaconda and Concord. Yeah, that's all right. But yeah, they'll be putting getting 2 seats on the top-up list. And again, that would sort of make sense. Abolish have been polling reasonably well in the context of the list seats. I mean, across the country as a whole, they're not polling particularly well at all. But given the way the regional top-up lists work here, it is entirely possible that they could pick up those seats. Next energy, darkness again! Darkness! So we've seen Tory energies coming through and UKIP and Reform doing well. That might be asking a bit much in terms of the actual results for that to align. Interesting that we haven't seen any for the big 3 parties. So perhaps that's... Oh, sorry, I say the big 3 parties, apart from the Tories, who have done quite well on these cards so far. But perhaps that is indication of the change about to take place. You know, even if major change takes place in terms of big Labour seats in sort of their strongholds in the north, follow the path of the sort of the UK-wide party in terms of some of the losses they saw at the general election. Rather than bump Labour out of power, there's actually a chance it would actually strengthen their position in power because of what Labour would have to do to retain their position of authority. Carbonine and... Oh, it's Empoleon! It's Empoleon! One of my absolute favourites. It's really blurry. You can see it there. Oh, Empoleon V. Absolutely one of my favourite Pokemon in the whole lot. So even if it's blue, it's water energy. It's another Tory card for the purposes of tonight. But I do love Empoleon. So that's cool. We'll happily have Empoleon there. But yeah, so I was saying that I think I said in the video I did a few days ago that a coalition between Labour and Plaid seems entirely possible. I know that both parties sort of play up the hostility between the pair of them. There we go. But really, I think both would see green energy. So that's Plaid. That's what we're talking about. So yeah, this is sort of working for the video. Yeah. So energy card for Plaid, and we're talking about Plaid possibly going into government. Yeah. And again, you look at this Plaid Cymru on this final call here. Plaid Cymru on 13 points, picking up 1 seat. To be frank, if all Plaid can generate from this election is 1 additional seat, I think that's going to be really disappointing for them. This should have been an election that, you know, it's always so hard talking about COVID and thinking about, you know, what's the reality of it in terms of impact on this election. But this really should have been easy wins for Plaid. And, you know, it may well be. There are a lot of seats which are really fine margins. Last time out in the Senedd elections, you know, we're talking about hundreds of votes being the difference between, you know, Labour taking seats, Plaid taking seats, other places in the country as well. Very, very fine margins. So those polling figures could easily skew into different directions. But if we take it as that's what it's looking likely to be, with Plaid not managing to make major gains at all, that would be really disappointing. I do believe reverse Durant, and it's called it's Stonjourner. Okay, just regular Stonjourner. Not very exciting at all. We've got 3 packs left. 3 packs from this Battle Styles Elite Trainer box. So far, the Tories out in front. Plaid slowly waking up, and lots of noise from UKIP and Reform, according to the cards, if you want to put your faith in cards. Oh, there. Hello. Well, that's weird. There are 2 of these in this pack. You know, I've only been pulling cards again for the last year and a half, but that is the first time that I've seen 2 of those in one pack. Interesting. What have we got? Lightning Energy, the Lib Dems. And so, you know, do the Lib Dems have a fighting chance of retaining that seat? Well, yeah. I mean, the seat that they're defending is one that is, you know, historically swinging between the Lib Dems and the Conservatives. And so, you know, it has been a tough time for the Lib Dems. Very, very tough. You know, and I found it a little bit awkward that Jane Dodds, their party leader, wasn't able to secure party support to be in that lead position to fight for their most viable seat. I think that was a little bit awkward. You know, I always find it a little bit weird when parties don't necessarily give that symbolic backing to their party leader. It does raise some questions. But nonetheless, Jane Dodds has, you know, done reasonably well. Dramper during the debates. Last card. Vermilion. They're not that great, these cards so far. The Empoleon card was cool, but the rest a bit underwhelming. Which is why I don't often do Elite Trainer boxes these days, because we don't have that much luck with them. But you know, double cards. At least double code cards, if you want to collect them. So yeah, Jane Dodds, Liberal Democrats, next energy card. Fire. We finally get around to Labour. So let's finish off what we're saying about the Lib Dems. There is a chance, there is a fighting chance that they will retain their seat, but it's not going to be much more than that. And generally speaking, I think, you know, I'd be very surprised if in the next pack we pull another Liberal Democrat lightning card, because their presence is going to be fairly limited in this election. So, Fire Energy, Labour, almost certainly going to come out as the biggest party. This last poll puts Labour on 27, losing 2 seats. And I think whilst that would be, there'll be a lot of press attention given to that and say, oh, it's a disaster, Labour losing seats in the heartland. I think Labour would probably be reasonably comfortable if they just lose 2 seats. They won't have a majority, but it's Welsh elections. Majorities don't really happen here, and that's part of I think the interesting thing about our voting system. It doesn't lend itself to majorities, and yet I think we managed to govern quite effectively, and we govern quite really effectively in coalition. You remember the Lib Dem Tory coalition in Westminster and all this panic about how would it work? How would it work? Well, I think Wales has demonstrated really effectively how coalition governments can work. We've had 2 of them here. I would really argue that the current government is a coalition government. I think I said in the video earlier on in the week that your education minister is a Lib Dem. David Ellis-Thomas, whatever his political affiliation is these days, is in government as well. You have that combination. And Hollow or Beetle. Again, not amazing cards. We've got 1 pack left. And we were talking about Labour and probing how they're going to get on. So yeah, one way or the other, they will be party of government. If, last code card, if they get 27 seats, they may well feel bullish enough to just run it alone. It would be possible. It'd be awkward, but you sort of expect or suspect that Plaid would back them in enough areas to make government workable. Last energy, psychic for Greens. Bless the Greens in the context of Wales. The Green Party is here, but you know what I think they really struggle with? Last time out in Wales, we had this working electoral pact to try and stop the Tories getting back in to power. This was the last general election, and I really feel there's a bit of a legacy there in that I think many people in Wales, if they have a Green agenda, I think they're pretty much inclined to say that if they want to see that agenda get into government, they are far more likely to do it successfully by voting for Plaid rather than the Greens. I think that the Greens are that the Greens in Wales, at least, are quite keen on devolution and indeed conceptually independence as well. Just makes it even harder for the Greens to make any real impacts here. On the regional lists, they are polling, again, in context to the regional list, reasonably well. And I suppose there's a question of, if the Tories manage to sap away enough support from Abolish, that would dent Abolish chances and possibly bump up the chances of the Green Party. It is not impossible that the Greens will take a seat, although it is highly improbable. Last card. It's Galarian Slowbro, and it's not holographic. Well, I'm going to say that Elite Trainer box was a bust, guys. We got 2 V cards, Necrozma and Empoleon. It's alright, though, because I do love Empoleon. It's one of my absolute favourite cards, and I can't wait for Empoleon to come back to the main series game. But we were really here to look at energy cards. So this is our final spread of energy. That's how it came out. And yeah, is that reflective of what's going to happen? Well, I'm going to say straight away that the 2... Where are they? The 2 darkness cards, which are there, I think. Let's get those 2 darkness energy cards. Yeah, they're a waste of time. That's not going to happen. I think that's entirely possible. The Tories could well make decent gains. What else did we have? Greens, not that that's green, but Greens likely to make some gains. Bit of a mixed bag for these guys. Come the next Senedd elections, will the Lib Democrats even be there? Will they have any representation, or will they be wiped out? It's possible. Not ruling it out at this stage. Plaid, Labour, I think this is probably what we're looking at, actually. We are going to be looking at big gains for the Tories. Maybe not massive gains in terms of seats, but I think decent gains in terms of vote share and the symbolism that comes with that. But this combination, red and green, Labour and Plaid, coalition government, that's going to be my prediction, and it may take some time to manifest, but I think the most viable way forward for the next phase of Welsh democracy within the Senedd is that coalition up against this in opposition. So let's see. Let's see if the cards, and more specifically my interpretation of the cards, was right. Okay, guys, if you enjoyed that, thanks very much for joining in. It was a fun way to round off this phase of the election. I will be doing a review of the results towards the end of the week, and yeah, let's see what happens. Get out there and vote, guys. You know, I don't know. I was hoping to get like a really awesome pull from these and say, if you've got an amazing card, go out there and vote. Share with me your thoughts and what you did on voting day, where you voted, how you voted, if you're happy, and I'll send this Necrozma V card in the post to one random commenter. But I was hoping for something a little bit better than that. But the offer still stands. Let me know your thoughts. Let's see what happens on election day. Enjoy the day. Democracy is always something to be celebrated and enjoyed. So yeah, have a good one. Have a good election day, and I will see you guys once the dust settles. Good night, all.